It appears that we have a couple more teasers out of these new Knight Codexes. Let's talk about what the hints can tell us, and how it might be easier than ever to include a single Knight in your army. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where today we're talking Knights once more. Games Workshop have been giving us a few teasers over the last couple of weeks, new Knight guns revealed and weapon options on those War Dogs, but now we have a couple of interesting hints as to what is actually going to be coming in the Codex, one from some match play White Dwarf rules, and then the other one a supposed picture of part of the Codex. It seems that the common theme among both of them are that Knights are going to be fairly easy to ally for other factions, something that I think is really quite nice, as you often don't really want to take, say, a single Knight that's allied to the rest of your army for multiple different reasons. The Knights don't get as many decent rules, and it also breaks any army-wide special rules that your forces have, though from this it appears that that might be no longer the case. Starting off though, there was an interesting section in the White Dwarf April magazine. This one's an excerpt taken from one of their bigger Flashpoint articles, but one that gives rather a lot of details about their codex and also has a stamp that reads Match Play Legal on it, so this one is an official update to Competitive 40k if you do want to make use of these rules. The main purpose of the little point is to give you an easier way to ally Chaos Knights with the Disciples of Be'lakor army. That's interesting enough in itself, but to be honest, the things that really interest me more are the little hints and teasers of Codex Chaos Knights. First up, House Korvax appears to be a new Chaos Knight Dread household. It says that its rules can be found in the new Chaos Knights Codex, and it would have to be the new one, as they don't have any Dread household rules in general in the Chaos Knights Codex, and this one isn't even one of the ones that was added in that Psychic Awakening supplement. House Korvax and the lore are Fallen House Raven Knights, a brand new household created from the machinations of Be'lakor. It looks like from the article they are confirmed to be an Infernal house rather than Iconoclast. That would certainly make sense if they're made of Renegade Mechanicum Knights, and it appears that they have a household bond called Forged in Terror, though of course no actual hints as to what that actually might do. Hopefully it's not just a leadership manipulation thing, that will make everyone very sad. If we're adding that to the roster of Chaos Knight Dread households, that would bring them up to 6, though it certainly wouldn't be possible they could add a fair few more. The Imperial Knights really do have quite a lot of households. Next up, there's an allusion to something called Favour of the Dark Gods. It says that if you upgrade a Korvax allied Disciples of Be'lakor Knight, then the Favour of the Dark Gods it must take is Blessing of the Dark Master. Most of the 9th edition codexes so far tend to have a points cost upgrade system. I'm going to guess that this one will be the one for Chaos Knights. If you can take different favours of the Dark Gods, then maybe this one will be an option to get ones orientated for the different Chaos Gods. Perhaps as well as Be'lakor, there'll be ones for Khorne, Slaanesh, Nurgle, and Tzeentch. Finally, outside of the Be'lakor specific stuff, it does appear that Infernal's Demonic Surge is still a thing. That's the ability that they have to take a few mortal wounds to upgrade their toughness, guns, or speed, though of course that could be one of the ones they alter a bit and make play slightly differently. Finally, for the actual bit about allying with Be'lakor, it basically gives you a way to field Chaos Knights alongside their Army of Renown, the Army of Renown being the one in Warzone Charadon Book 2, where you can make some weird mixed attachments of Chaos Space Marines and Chaos Demons, though you do have to leave really quite a lot of stuff behind. Considering though there was a big generic allied Chaos force, it did feel a bit of a shame that you weren't able to take Chaos Knights along with it. So I feel like this little rules excerpt does have quite a good little feels good factor from a fluff perspective, as well as technically being a small buff to the formation as well. You could have a big hitting Chaos Knight alongside Be'lakor and all his minions. Basically the rules for the allied Be'lakor Knight is that it must be a Korvax Knight, you must include it in a super heavy auxiliary detachment, it gains both the Agent of Chaos and Disciples of Be'lakor keywords, and also gains Chaos Knight style detachment abilities such as the Household Trait and the Infernal Devotion. From the wording of this, it still sounds like super heavy auxiliaries might not necessarily allow you that. I guess we'll have to see the detachment rules for the Knights, they often do make them a little bit weird. Basically, if you were creating a shadowy Disciples of Be'lakor army, you can now include a Chaos Knight along to do some heavy lifting, and it sounds like as a Knight ally goes, it might be relatively powerful, at least compared with other super heavy auxiliaries. The other leak though, which appears to actually come from the Chaos Knight Codex, also appears to be related to allying Knights, this time Freeblades and Dreadblades, and the fact that it's going to look a lot easier than it would be before. This one does just look like a photo from someone who's already got access to the Codex. I guess it's not 100% impossible it could be fake. People do seem to like having fun with Photoshop and Warhammer leaks these days, but it would seem like a very boring one to make up if they were going to. So my suspicion is that this one is genuine. This rule is called Fallen Hero, and it's basically a rule that allows a Dreadblade to be taken alongside a different Chaos army, again in a super heavy auxiliary detachment. And if you take this as a Dreadblade, or presumably a Freeblade for the Loyalists, then it doesn't break any army-wide special rules that would apply to the rest of the army, things like Contagions of Nurgle or Kabbalistic Rituals. Like the Disciples of Be'lakor Detachment 1, this one also gives the Chaos Knights the Agent of Chaos keyword, which is kind of an interesting one. Basically, that's sounding exactly like the Agent of the Imperium one, but for Chaos, so maybe that might apply to some other non-aligned Chaos units in the future. It really is quite an interesting one though, as it means taking a single knight in an alliance to the rest of your 40k army would be a lot more tempting and viable than it would be before. Currently, when you're allying knights, you'd very rarely want to do it if you're going to be breaking army-wide special rules like combat doctrines, miracle dice, or canticles of the Omnissiah for the loyalists. If you're allying just a single knight, and usually breaking all those rules and having to pay a lot more command points for a knight without traits is usually going to be a really bad idea. I do think that's a bit of a shame though, as I think it's quite an interesting way to change up a list to be able to add an allied knight to it. They're really quite awesome centerpiece models, and I've often enjoyed fielding allied knights alongside my guard. This seems like it could be a fun and fairly fluffy way to do that, as it being locked into taking either a Freeblade or Dreadblade, it might well limit the amount of rules that you have access to. Their rules were fairly tame in the previous codexes, so it could potentially be a way to actually make running a big allied super heavy viable without it being a completely terrible choice if you are sacrificing army special rules. I think perhaps the single most interesting use of this though might be an allied knights to a Death Guard list with Contagions of Nurgle. Most of the other army-wide special rules tend to impact the models themselves, not the enemy army, but Contagions of Nurgle makes the enemy all sick and grants them all -1 toughness. It does mean that you could potentially have a knight that's attacking targets that are far less tough than they should normally be. Say for example, you could perhaps have an Avengers Gatling cannon wounding a toughness 7 vehicle on 4s just because there's a Contagions unit close to it. If that remains in force, it could mean that an allied Chaos Knight might actually be a lot more valuable to Death Guard armies compared with others, as they have the potential to be essentially getting a really big damage boost against certain units. Still though, overall I think it's quite cool. Could be interesting to at least have things like Space Marine lists have the option of taking an Imperial Knight along. Quite cool to have the idea of these Freeblades or Dreadblades wandering around loaning out their services. So let me know what you think of the leagues then. If the knight rules are usable, do you think that you could be tempted to ally a knight with the rest of your army? I look forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, or I'll certainly keep the regular 40k videos coming, with new ones out just about every day. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I'd just like to mention one way in which you can help support, which is my Element Games affiliate link down in the video description below. Element Games is a UK-based discount retailer. They usually give 10 to 20% off Games Workshop's miniatures, so if you live in the UK and you were thinking about ordering something, feel free to check them out. Can be a way to help out the channel a bit, and if you buy anything after clicking the link, a small amount goes to help support Auspex Tactics without costing you any more. Otherwise, if you live over in the USA, I do also have an Amazon link down there as well. If you were thinking about buying something off Amazon, give that one a click first before ordering. A small amount goes to help support the channel, and it doesn't cost you any more at all when you buy. A massive thank you to you guys who have been using those, it really does help out. And a huge thank you for listening. I'll hope to see you guys next time.